Yeah,
volume?
you sound okay. Just stay
I
with the
sound
mic.
for me.
Yeah, you sound good.
You sound okay for you, Eddie. It's
Yeah, Eddie, it's all right, Eddie. We put him.
but we have our expectations are pretty limited. So for you, it's
You have a
fine.
low bar there. Eh? We
That's
don't
right. That's
expect a
right.
lot.
That's right. That's right. You know, Columbia
So
didn't teach me much.
now, Bill, you want to make me a co-host, or else I've got to move your mouse around
I'll
myself.
take care of it. Yep. Eddie's co-host already,
I saw that.
and now you're co-host. And
So we are at equal levels, Eddie. So
and
Hmm.
you are the
I've already
master.
started the recording.
You have.
I
There it
have.
is.
Yes. We were having rich conversation before anyone. So with Tom before.
We can repeat it all now since we're all here now. Go ahead and open the show. Let's hear what's going on today, Bill, if you're not too busy typing into your phone or whatever you're doing over there.
I am not. Yes, tomorrow. What is tomorrow? January 10th is Max Roach's birthday.
Ah,
And tomorrow is the end of 365 days of celebrating his legacy and his great music. And as some of you know in here, we celebrated Max for 12 of 13 hours, 7, 8 hours last January. And there have been programs all over the country and in Europe, probably in Asia too, celebrating Max in the last 12 months. And we'll continue celebrating his life and legacy. Eddie Carp, you all know, munching away. And why don't we start with some music, and then I'll introduce Thomas Taylor when we get few more people in. This is one of my favorite Max records. It's called Members Don't Get Weary. Charles Tolliver on trumpet, who 2 people in the room are going to see Monday night. Gary Bartz sax, Stanley Cowell, and Jimmy Merritt on the bass. This is original composition by Max. Actually, Stanley Cowell wrote it, not Max. It's called Effie. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Wednesday Cambridge Hot Club, our second Hot Club of the year 2025. And we're going to celebrate the great Max Roach again. That was a piece called Effie, and from the record members, Don't Get Weary. Welcome, everybody. Mr. Schwartz, Ward, Brad, Elizabeth, Willie, Francie. Welcome, everybody. Suzanne. Eddie Karp will be co-hosting with Bodenweiser, our producer. And we have a special guest tonight, Thomas Taylor, who teaches at University of North Carolina. He's in the room, might have stepped out. I'm referring to, hi, Thomas.
Hi, no, I'm here. North Carolina Central University. We North Carolinians get a little sensitive because University of North Carolina is the one in Chapel Hill. And yeah, people will correct you on those things pretty quickly if you say, hey, oh yeah, he teaches at North Carolina. You know. I did at one point though, but for many years at North Carolina Central University, the other school in Durham.
Welcome, everybody. And if anyone has music they want to hear, we've got, about a dozen hours of music, but we'll play tunes that you might want to hear. Everyone doing okay? Is it cold in North Carolina? It's damn cold here, even for us.
It is cold here in North Carolina. It is about 35 degrees right now, and it's dropping steadily in the Raleigh-Durham area, which is cold for us.
Yeah.
I realize for you all in Boston, you'd probably be wearing shorts and a t-shirt right now, but for us, we put on warmer underwear.
I put on my long underwear for the first time this week. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming tonight. Thomas, not just a musician and a drummer, but he shares the same beginnings as Mr. Roach.
Yes, I was also born in Pasquotank County, North Carolina. One of my sisters lives just south of Newland, North Carolina, in a place called South Mills, North Carolina. So Newland is that township right there. And if you don't know much about that part of the country or the state, it is somewhat rural. It is somewhat swampy. They say the Great Dismal Swamp is there. And if you have not been, I encourage you to drive the Dismal Swamp. It's pretty interesting where you literally have swampland on both sides of the road for the U.S. Highway 158 that travels along that Great Dismal Swamp that takes you from Elizabeth City, essentially,
Is that
through
east
the
of Raleigh?
Yes, it is east of Raleigh. And the way I always describe Elizabeth City is it's as far east and as far north as you can go without going into Virginia or to the ocean. Of course, you do have the Outer Banks, Kitty Hawk, Duck, Nag's Head, but the waterways, that intercoastal waterway is right there on the tip of Elizabeth City. So you hit water or you hit another state. And that's where Elizabeth City is.
And that's more north of the tobacco country. Or is
Um,
it still grown there too?
Yeah, that tobacco country is all grown through there, as well as soybeans and peanuts and a little bit of cotton, a bunch of different things for many years. But of course, it's they've moved it to being kind of singular now, where it's just kind of really one or two crops instead of many crops.
I know that one of my favorite writers is Joseph Mitchell, who worked at the New Yorker for 40, 50 years, wrote phenomenal essays about the people and the color of New York City. And he grew up He was supposed to be a tobacco farmer like his dad and his granddad, but he became a sophisticated New Yorker living in a. Anyway. Anything anyone want to hear now?
I haven't listened to Out Front, I think is the name of the album by Booker Little, and Max is on it, of course. And there's a tune on it I haven't heard for a while, but I used to listen to it all the time. We Speak, I think it's called. And that would be my suggestion.
Here we go. We Speak. Good suggestion. Max Roach from his record Deeds, Not Words. Max, along with the great Art Davis on bass. Any comments, any questions?
I love that it was just the two of them on that. That was great. You just don't hear that often, you know?
Yes, on that record, they really, really stretched out. What a beautiful record. Deeds, Not Words. There you go. Thank you, Roz.
Love it. You're gonna make me start pulling out. You got all the albums though. I've got CDs and a few albums, you know, but only like under 200 albums. And I see you have thousands of albums back there over your shoulder. So
This
that's
is
great.
only some of them, man, in one part of the house. This is on the tip of the iceberg, man. CDs are good too.
Oh yeah. So Bill, I noticed the Booker Little album that Max was playing timpani and drums, right? So yeah. And I had been in search for other Max albums because of course I know he did that on Bimsha Swing, right? And I had a question, so I'm going to pose this question to you all because I think I'll get answers from this group, and I love that. Which is, was that a fluke? And hearing the Book of Little record makes me think it wasn't a fluke. That there weren't just timpani in the room, and Max just said, "Okay, well, I'm going to play timpani on some and play drums." And is there a photo of him doing that setup? Because as a drummer and a percussionist, classically trained percussionist, I say I'm a God-taught jazz drummer. That's not easy to do. And the setup is not easy. So I want to see what that looks like and how he did it. So the first question is, was that planned, the timpani and the drum set, before the session, if anyone knows anything about that? And second, does anyone have a photo of how it was set up? Because I'd love to get.
I believe I've read that on the Monk album, it was just a fluke. It just happened to be in the studio. As far as the album that we just listened to, that was years later, and I assume that he decided he wanted to use it, particularly on that cut. So he may have arranged it for to have it there. I don't know that for a fact, but
And I
And
know on the record,
later on, he did quite a bit of work with various percussion instruments, non-trap drum percussion instruments, including timpanis. With various ensembles of his own and as a guest, etc. So it definitely became more part of what he did, I think, over time. So it suggests, at least to me, that there was his intent with it developed over time, and that would be my thinking on it.
yeah. And I believe this record was just done in one session from the little information.
Yeah. Well, I
I'm
know
not
that.
sure that's true because there's um, Ron Carter
Oh, Ron
plays
Carter,
bass
you're right. Yeah.
on some of those, so it maybe have been two sessions.
But I know that, or at least my ear says that Max was playing timpani and drums at the same time. It's a conversation, and I always want to understand that because there's times where timpani are large drums, and I'm trying to figure out, is he playing the timpani to his left side and he's doing that with his left hand and his left foot? Or is it to the right of him, which is even more difficult to get the choreography that you would have to do to be able to play that and to go back and forth on both of these? I mean, the drums sound like they're pretty close to the same sizes on both records, even though the records are pretty different. But I was just curious about that whole thing. And I haven't heard anyone else do that but Max. Have you all? Are you all familiar with any other drummers who play timpani and drum set on the same record or a video even?
No. You know what's interesting? In thinking about it, kind of pricked my memory a little bit. Into the at least into the late 70s and into the 80s, he had a setup where he had a pedal on his floor tom that he used to alter pitch.
Right, the Hollywood drum, but that's
You know,
different. That's
right,
not a timpani, that's a drum.
right.
And it
But he,
sounds like a floor tom.
right. But I'm thinking maybe he was looking to get that kind of, to be able to create that alteration of pitch that he was able to do with the timpani, but
Yeah.
on a smaller drum.
And I stand corrected on the bass player. We talked about Oscar Pettiford was the bassist on that, not Art Davis. And
Yeah,
Art,
I thought that was Oscar Pettiford on These Not Words.
yeah.
Right,
And Art
yeah.
Davis is the bassist on the rest of the recordings. Ron Carter and Art share the bass on another one of the records.
On the Book of Little album.
Yeah.
On Out Front. Yeah, they split that. On
Um,
that.
Thomas, do you know the record, the piece that Ray Draper wrote for this record, which is mostly a tuba drum feature?
On These Not Words?
Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce this. Valide.
I think so, but why don't you play it? We got time.
Okay.
Nothing but time.
We
right.
got time, right?
This
I'm
is
pretty sure I know it,
incredible.
but
This is a wonderful conversation between two instruments, but let's go. Yeah. Max Roach from Deeds Not Words. You're listening to the Cambridge Hot Club, coming your way first and third, and sometimes other days, but usually the first and third Wednesdays of each month. And we're celebrating the great music of Max Roach. Tomorrow is the 365th day of his 100th, his centenary. Very pleased to have as my co-host Eddie Karp, and our guest tonight is Thomas Taylor. I'd like to hear you talk about that piece we just heard, please.
Oh, me?
Oh, you. And I'll reintroduce you because a number of people have come in. Thomas is a drummer, musician, educator in North Carolina, and the real school of Raleigh.
Yes. Well, this piece was wonderful to hear and reminisce again. It's so funny. I listened to all of Max's music, and I definitely have to get caught up because you all have y'all are introducing me to so many things tonight, or making me go back and revisit some stuff. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. I haven't listened to that track in a long time. I've listened to, this one and that one, but oh yeah, I skipped that one. Hadn't listened to that one, but 50 times instead of 500 times. But the beauty of it is, hearing the tuba is one thing that you don't always hear, especially in the front of the ensemble with the jazz. But the thing that I think stood out to me most was Max's calypso drumming. and how he's playing the Latin rhythms all on the snare drum with the snares off, and that sensitivity of having all those sounds and voices, you know, and it makes me think of some of the things that Papa Joe Jones used to do, you know, getting all those sounds and tones from the drum set. And Max was definitely a continuation of getting that. And I think making it pretty common, and other people followed after him. But the whole technique of how quiet he was playing and how sensitive you could hear the stick sounds that he was getting, as well as the finger sounds that he was getting from the drum, and getting all those different nuances, you know. And a lot of times now, especially, we hear drummers and they, you know, in order for them to have 20 sounds on the drums, they got to have 20 drums. And, you know, those old school cats, maybe they had 4 drums, you know, a snare drum, a bass drum, a high tom, and a floor tom. And it sounded like an orchestra. It sounded like they had 200 drums with 150 cymbals, you know, and they could get so much sound out of that, which is so amazing. And it makes me go back and think like, that particular cut made me remember, oh yeah, man, okay, I'm hearing some of the same stuff that he did on Saxophone Colossus with Sonny Rollins on St. Thomas, if you know that record, right? You know, and Max is doing some of those similar ideas in his solo, and it's just like, wow, okay, all of these things that Max is doing, you hear different ideas, but some of the same things and similarities. And he was such a wealth of knowledge and sensitivity and taste and appropriateness, to support the music and propel the music. You know, that's the thing that was jumping out to me as I was listening.
I can't help but remember that I bought Saxophone Colossus in a cutout bin for $1. I didn't know who anybody. I didn't know who Sonny Rollins was. I didn't know who Tommy Flanagan was. I didn't know anything except there was one name that I remember reading about. And this is when I'm like 16 or 17, and it was Max Roach. And I had heard that not Riverside, that Prestige was a pretty cool label, and I had no Prestige. I had only probably a half a dozen records at the time, so I figured for $1, I would splurge. And I came home, and the funny thing is, the only 2 saxophone players that I really knew well enough was Lester Young and Stan Getz. And when I heard Sonny Rollins, I shut it off. I said, I can't listen to that. It's crazy. And it took me about 6 months when I got back, and by that time I had maybe 50 or 60 albums, and I became a Sonny Rollins guy. But it took a while. And Max was great on that, obviously.
Well, we're actually gonna spend a good piece of time over the course of the show listening to Max and Sonny Rollins, because their pairing certainly was something special. So we are going to get into that. In fact, Bill, I don't know how easy it would be, but maybe we should play St. Thomas, since Thomas was talking about it, and it sort of connects to what we just heard and could connect to some other Max and Sonny.
We can,
Before you start playing that one, pay attention to his bass drum. And I don't know if you all have headphones that you can hear the nuances, but you know, it's like I wrote a piece that was published in the Percussive Arts Society magazine back last year, that was, you know, to celebrate his centennial. And in that, I talked about how Max made me reevaluate myself and my drumming over and over and over and over again. It was pretty much like, okay, I thought I could play. And then it's like, nope, Can't do that like Max. I thought I got coordination together. Nope, can't do that. I thought I could play fast. No, definitely can't do that like Max. You know, it's all these things over and over and over, which made me become a better drummer. But listening to St. Thomas, I noticed that Max, you know, sometimes he's playing 4 on the floor, but on this song, he actually plays an emphasized beat on one of the beats and then not as emphasized on the other. So he's going like boom, 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 boom. So if you've got headphones and you can listen, or if you know the song really well, really pay attention to that ability to keep that same beat happening throughout the song. So that's the thing I want to say about that, which is really impressive bass drum technique.
Yeah, thank you. We'll go to St. Thomas. First, I want to play one piece of Max and Clifford. So I want to hear your comment, and then we'll talk again, and then play St. Thomas.
Wow. So, was that called Sweet Clifford?
Sweet Clifford. Yeah.
AI is working.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, you said it's originally a 45.
Or a
Um,
70. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, right, originally from a 45, not a album.
You
Is
know, I
that
don't know if
correct?
it was a 10-inch record. What I see here's, depending on our phones, you can actually
Gotcha.
still get a 45 of it for $8 from
It
Discogs.
it it it, it makes me a couple of things come to mind there. The one, it's kind of like Mr. Burnett, who has all those albums behind him. And I'm of the album and CD generation, even though I mean I'm not quite I'm a little younger than some of you. So I remember 8 tracks, right? So I grew up with 8 tracks. I remember cassettes, and of course I remember albums, but I'm, kind of a CD kid, even though I was late teen, early 20s when CDs became, very popular. And I remember, spending hours going through the old record stores, finding different albums. But it's one of those things that makes me remember that when you have CDs, you don't always get the information the same way that you do albums or, 45s or 10-inch or, you know, EPs as they were, or, those shorter LPs that came out. And some stuff just was never in print that made it to a CD. So when I thought about that song, it's like, okay, so it's a song based off of Sweet Georgia Brown, but I don't know the song. And I was like, okay, I don't think I know this. I don't think it's on any one of the Max and Clifford records that I know. And I realize now that I don't have them all. So I was stumped. So I was trying to figure that out. But yeah, that was the thing that immediately came to mind. It's like, oh wow, they're playing Sweet Georgia Brown, or the changes to Sweet Georgia Brown, and they've got that a new melody on top of that. And I felt like Max was definitely comping a different way, and maybe he was comping that way because he was keeping that Sweet Georgia Brown feel as an undercurrent as he was playing up tempo behind that song is one of the things that I thought about, because as soon as he went to his solo, he went back to the way I'm accustomed to hearing Max play time and comp and solo. But his comping over the tune and behind many of the soloists was different than I have heard him play before. And I think the recording definitely is different on that, because the bass drum is much louder than I'm accustomed to hearing Max on other records.
The Sweet Clifford track, actually, that material that was recorded for Mercury and Mercury/MRC has been reissued in so many different formats that it's really kind of hard to tell. Even in the LP era, there were lots of different issues and twofers and this and that. From what I think, it came out on an album called either Roach Brown Incorporated or Brown Roach Incorporated. I'm not sure which. And it's not the
And I know that record, but I didn't think it was on that record.
yeah. I mean, I'd have to double check, but that's what that's what I remember. But I'm old, so I don't trust my memory anymore.
About 15 years ago, when CDs were becoming popular, Emerson put out a 10 CD set of everything Max and Clifford did. And there's a lot of outtakes. So I don't remember it on one of the Emerson records. I had those Emerson records on Trip Records.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And who got paid for those? No one.
Now, see,
Not the musician.
Triple
Sure.
records. Oh
I
man.
stand corrected on Apple Music. Sweet Clifford is the first track, but I don't remember that being the first track on my CD. And I know I have that Brown and Roach
Yeah, that's the
CD.
cover art. That's the cover I remember. That's
Right.
Brett's. Yeah, that's what I remember.
So as soon as you said that, it's like I got that, but I don't remember that tune.
Yeah.
And again, it's you all are making me go, oh, right, that's on there. Boy, I need to go back and listen to that again,
So
because
August 3rd, 1954, they recorded Georgia,
yeah,
two versions of Clifford, Sweet Clifford, and I Don't Stand a Ghost of a Chance. Two versions of that. That's all they did on the 4th of August of them.
uh,
But they were in the studio or live constantly that month.
mm. Yeah, because there's a few others, Stomping at the Savoy, Mildama, and those are the two that always stick in my head. Those are the ones that I have people doing, and I'm having them play along with. Right. And so, yeah, I got to go back and thank you for making me go back and revisit all my Clifford Brown and Max
Th-
Roach music.
There's so much, it's funny, Bill and I have been, kind of in our own way prepping for this, which may seem hard to believe, but it's true. And it's like trying to decide what to play, of this music is like, I don't know, it's like trying to catch a single fish in the ocean, it's like trying, like how do you kind of decide, because there's just so much and it's all great. So, yeah, it's you start and then then you remember, oh my God, how about that? How can we not play that? How can we not, it's just the process,
I know when I heard it, I did not remember when I last heard it when I was listening to Max and Clifford.
Hmm.
But and we've already had requests to play it again, which we might get to. But let's shift gears since we were talking about St. Thomas from Saxophone Colossus. Anyone like to comment on this or introduce it? Where's Mr. Roach compared to 2 years before? Okay.
I mean, to me, one of the things about Max on St. Thomas is just, yeah, this is one of those fairly early examples of him really maintaining the structure of the tune and the other soloist within his own solo, where you could hear him, he's utilizing the whole tune. I mean, it's not like just a drum solo that's independent of the tune he's playing. It's completely woven into the tune he's playing.
Hey, Eddie,
Mhm.
can you crank yourself up a bit?
Sure.
All right.
Consider me cranked.
Is
Now,
that
I
up?
wonder, and it's been years since I read those liner notes. But the song starts out calypso, and then it switches to swing, right, halfway through. So I wonder, did Sonny want the song to start one way and end the other way? Was the song supposed to be a Caribbean song, or was it supposed to be a swing tune? And does anyone have a backstory on that?
Well, if you read the book that huge 1,000-page book that was written on Sonny Rollins's life, they talk a lot about that recording session. And I mean, his family came from, and I think his whole thing was that he always played calypsos after. That was the first one. But I mean, I've seen him 3 or 4 times at least, and it was always, a couple of calypsos in there.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's like, who made the decision to go to swing halfway through the song? And that's the question.
Right. Unanswerable.
Unanswerable, but for what it's worth, Sonny continued to play St. Thomas over the course of his well, deep into his career beyond this, and I don't think he continued to do that. I think I think he maintained it as a calypso, for what it's worth.
St. Thomas. St. Thomas. Good point, Willie. And
Yeah, maybe Max just wanted it to go to swing. Um, I don't know. That's why I asked the question: does anyone know the backstory on that?
Yeah, he does it very subtly, though. I got to listen to that a few more times to that drum solo to see exactly how he does it, because it's not like
he
an
plays
abrupt switch.
Yeah, he plays the form of the tune, so it's like he takes two choruses that's Latin or calypso, and then he takes another chorus or two choruses that are swing, and that's like his form of playing the song. So it's very structured, how he has it, and you can sing the melody right along with it, and you'll hear that when he switches to the swing, it's at the top of the form of the song, and he plays it in a swing style for another chorus or two. And then the other soloist, and Sonny immediately takes another, couple of choruses, and then Richie Powell goes in and plays his, and listening to it now, it's like, oh wait, did I hear some voices in the background there for a second on some of Sonny's, swing solo section, and Rich Powell was playing some chords that weren't following the form, and y'all got my ears opened up a little bit more tonight. So thank you for that. It's great to listen to the song. I always try to listen with amateur ears or freshman ears, listening anew, and that's really great to hear new stuff that you hear it 1,000 times and you hear something new on the 1,001st time.
We still have Sonny Rollins around to ask that question. Unfortunately, everybody else on that date has left us.
Yep.
And on most of our music that we have with Max Roach.
Yeah, no,
But it's.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wonder if Sonny would even remember, from that date, like who decided to go to swing, and because he's done so many record dates, he's got so much music that a lot of the great artists that I know, when I talk to them about a song from, even 10 years before, they go, man, I have no idea. I don't remember what, it's like, there are a few who they remember. It's almost like they have an eidetic memory. They remember everything from every record, and almost like they've got a savant thing there happening. But yeah, a lot of them don't.
I mean, even Max, when Bill and I we interviewed him a number of times back in 1979, 1980 at WKCR, and I remember I can't remember what track it was or what session it was, but I remember saying to myself before, I got to ask him about this, and it was something I absolutely loved, and like it was just, to me, it's like just one of the greatest records ever made. And I remember asking him about it, and he was like, just like what you're saying, Thomas, is like, it was another date, it was another date. And then when you actually looked at the discography, you'd realize that during that time frame, he was recording like crazy. I mean, there's like a compressed period in like 1956 where it's like record after record, both as a leader and a sideman. He's just all over the place. And so it kind of makes sense that maybe, it just didn't stand out at that time.
Going back to the Emersy records, I mean, Brownie they were playing they played, 20, 30 nights a month and recorded during the day. So how,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was talking to Bill before we kind of started, and I told him another one of my favorite drummers and inspirational people is Grady Tate. And I was fortunate to work with him a little bit. He's also an alumnus of North Carolina Central University. But I asked him one time we were rehearsing, and I said, well, why don't you sit down and play it for me? Right. Thinking, oh, I got him. Okay. I'm gonna get it all right here. And he said, no, man, I'm not playing. And he told me he was like, he played, 18 hours a day for, 15 years. And I'm thinking like, oh, because you think those guys were probably literally recording almost every day,
yeah.
plus, playing 3 and 4 gigs and jamming at night till 5 o'clock in the morning. So, imagine how many recording sessions. And when I listen back to, a lot of Max's stuff, some of the solos sound very similar, but, I have to remind myself, he probably played, 60% of these recordings within a year or in a year and a half time limit, So it's like, yeah, some of that stuff is going to sound similar because he's playing every day, recording every other day or, something like that for
Yeah.
8 months or a year.
It's interesting because the trajectory of his work with Sonny Rollins it's kind of odd because the first sessions are in 49 with J.J. Johnson. That's the first time they recorded together. Then, as far as I could tell, there's nothing until the live stuff from the Beehive with Clifford at the club in Chicago. That's the next time. So that's almost 6 years later. Then,
Well,
like
they did
late 50s,
record with Miles on a few sessions.
with
51. Miles and Sonny. I mean,
oh, okay, yes,
and
yes,
Mac.
yes. There were a couple of things there. That's right. But then it jumps. It jumps to like 55, and then between 55 and 57, there's tons. There's like they're recording all the time. There's like under Sonny's name and Max's, Max and Clifford, and just Kenny Durham's name. Then it ends, and then there's a tour in '66. Then there's nothing, as far as I could tell, till Jimmy Carter welcomed them to the White House in '76. So it's like a 10-year gap there. So it's kind of,
I wonder how much of that was, when Max played with, I forget what year this is, and y'all can help me. When Max played with like Mingus and Duke, what year is that Money Jungle?
61, I think.
61 or 62. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, early 60s.
So that doesn't explain it.
No, it's just an interesting. When I started to look at it, I was like, wow, there are major gaps here. Like where they didn't really seem to do anything. I mean, they may have done sessions or live stuff, but in terms of like studio dates, not
Well,
much.
you get from the 78s to the 10-inch and then the LPs. So all of the recordings, like this stuff we'll play with Sonny and JJ coming up, those are just 2, 3, session time is expensive. Studio time is expensive.
Yeah. Bill, why don't we go to those first dates with J.J. Johnson? The couple of those tunes. They're short. They were 78s. They're from May of '49 with J.J. and Sonny. Kenny Dorham is there. John Lewis on piano, Leonard Gaskin on bass, and Max on drums. Maybe 2 tunes. One, and I've seen it spelled Elyse, and I've seen it spelled Elyse. So I'll just call it Elyse, Elysee, and Opus 5. They were on an album called Looking Back. Well, they've been reissued on an album called Looking Back of J.J. Johnson's, but they're originally 78. So these are the first recordings of Max and Sonny Rollins.
Hello. I did it now.
Two tracks from J.J. Johnson. The first tunes that we heard Sonny Rollins and Max Roach together on from 1949, Ellisy and Opus 5. To move on a little bit with a little bit more, or maybe eventually a lot more, but certainly a little bit more of Max and Sonny Rollins from 55, from Sonny's album called Work Time. We're going to listen to that. Yes, sir.
I have a question, Eddie. Who is credited with Opus 5? Is that a JJ song or is that a Sonny song?
I believe it's JJ.
Really?
It's either JJ or maybe I'd have to check, but it may be John Lewis.
Because those are they put another melody over top of Ergin, which is Sonny Rollins' tune. That's why I asked the question of
right.
who gets the credit for the tune.
Yeah. I have to look that up. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The other thing that struck me about Ellisy is and I don't know if this is right or not, but arrangement wise, it has like sort of a Birth of the Cool feel. With the three horns, it seems to have like the voicings that like Gil Evans was using on Birth of the Cool. So maybe there was some influencing going on over there.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments before we continue? Okay. There's no business like show business, done as only Max and Sonny Rollins can do it.
Okay, fellas.
From the great album Work Time on Prestige, Sonny Rollins, Ray Bryant, George Morrow, and a celebration to continue the celebration of Max Roach. We have with us tonight Thomas Taylor from North Carolina, who's graciously come on, and he's a musician, drummer, percussionist, educator. Grew up near where Max Roach's family grew up. When do you remember when you first started hearing Max? Were you into?
Well, I wasn't really into jazz growing up as a kid. I come from a family who has a deep history of gospel music. My sister is actually here. She joined the uh, the the session as well. Um, so I grew up listening to probably everything but jazz, and it wasn't until I was probably a senior in high school that I got a little bit interested in jazz. And then when I got to college, I started getting more interested in it. And I put a jazz group together, and that's when I started listening and learning more about Max. And he had actually come through North Carolina on a tour in the early 90s, maybe 91 or 92. And I got to meet him, briefly. It was kind of like he's coming through the tour, and I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Roach, how you doing? I'm a huge fan and all that stuff." And years later, I'm talking to my oldest aunt on my father's side, and she goes, "Well, Max is your cousin." And I'm like, "Why didn't you tell me this 15 years ago?" And I'm sure I was a hard-headed kid that didn't pay attention, and I probably heard that somewhere, but I wasn't listening. I was interested in playing some sport or doing something that a hard-headed kid was doing at that time. So my sister, her name is Hicks here. That's her maiden name. But Della, did you know about Max Roach being related to us before 1995 is probably the question. I don't know if you can unmute yourself, or if you don't want to, you don't have to. But of course, I found out that information after I had already met him. So I was pretty disappointed about that part.
Thomas, no, I don't remember that before then. I knew of the Roach family. Um, I went to school with some of his distant cousins. But other than that, no, had no idea that we were related. So awesome to find that out years later.
Right. And I guess, you didn't necessarily have conversations. As I got older and I got interested in music, I found that talking to people who were older than me was absolutely invaluable, because I learned so much information that I did not know that I wouldn't get any other way. So I got, I looked for those older people in the room and made sure that I tried to keep my mouth closed while they talked so I could learn something. Um, but I tried, to reach out to Max many times after finding that out, and never really got a chance to talk to him and say, "Hey, Max, I'm from Elizabeth City also, and can we get together," or something like that. But since he's passed, I was a big part of the celebration, his centennial celebration in Elizabeth City. And actually, I'm going back there in about a week and a half and doing our final. I don't know if it'll be the final, but another installation performance that'll be. I'm doing the kind of a revival or a tribute to the Rich versus Roach. So it's pretty cool because my high school band director is a drummer also, and he's kind of a Buddy Rich disciple. And I say that I'm kind of the Max Roach disciple. So I thought, well, why not do this Rich versus Roach on the benefit concert that I hold for North Carolina Central's jazz program each year, called Give the Drummer Some. So I usually invite some great drummer to come through. We've had Dennis Chambers, Jeff Tane Watts, Carl Allen, Nasheep Waits, and this year I had and Gregory Hutchison also has come and done that. But this year I did the Rich versus Roach because it was Max Roach's centennial celebration. And the people in Elizabeth City saw that and said, "Hey, would you come and do that, to celebrate Max's birthday?" So yeah, we'll do that on the 17th, which is actually a week later than Max's birthday, which is the 10th on Friday. But that whole thing of understanding, wow, okay, he comes from the same place that I come from, and that lineage is stronger than I thought. But I definitely am not playing on the level of Max Roach, and that's okay.
Any questions?
I was wondering if there were any other drummers you listened to early on after you decided that the drums were your instrument.
Definitely Max and Grady Tate, unbeknownst to me, are both North Carolinians, but those two gentlemen really stood out because they played music in a way that was very clear. Their time playing was clear. Their comping was clear. When they did take solos, it was very clear. And I guess at the time of my development, I needed clarity. That I found that was important because I thought I was playing pretty good. And then I started listening to all those great musicians, and it's like, oh, I sound pretty bad. And let me start by figuring out what these people are doing. And you listen to everybody. And of course, yes, I wanted to play like Art Blakey and Philly Joe Jones and Tony Williams and Elvin Jones. But it's like, okay, those guys are doing some stuff, and I know that's way beyond me right now. Let me start with somebody who is clear. So I started with Max and really got that. And I listening to Grady Tate, one of the first albums that really made me go, okay, who is this? Is the Wes Montgomery and Jimmy Smith dynamic duo. If you know that album, man, Grady Tate is swinging so hard on that record. And I thought, okay, I need to learn how to do what this guy's doing. Who is this guy? And then I started looking at his discography and realizing that he played with everybody and he sings too, really, really well. So those were my two musical heroes or drumming heroes.
Plus, he was a great, not only with sticks, but with brushes.
Absolutely. Yes. So there's a long list of drummers, but those are the ones that I kind of hung my hat on, even though they may not have been the first ones to inspire me, but they were the ones that stuck and are the I guess the body of my, of everything that I try to do.
Okay. Thank you. Thomas, you introduced me to something by Toshiro Miyazumi. And
Did I really?
you did.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know if you want to introduce it. I did a little research on it. And
Sure.
and actually I spoke to Raul about this, and he remembers his father talking about this recording. This is a soundtrack for an album called Black Sun. I know Clifford Jordan's on it, Abby's on it, Eddie Kahn is on bass, and I forget if it was Mal Waldron or Coleridge Perkinson on the piano, but
Yes. So we were talking, and I guess it's a little too long of a story. Maybe I'll come back and talk about it afterwards. But I was trying to figure out if Max Roach had gone to Japan in 1964. And we were talking, and of course, Bill said, well, there's a Live in Tokyo. And I go, what year was that? And he said 77. I'm like, no, that's too late. It needs to be 64, maybe 63, something like that. Because I was trying to figure out when Max was in Japan. And Bill was able to find this soundtrack. So you can go ahead and play that now.
yeah. And this is from YouTube, and the person who introduces it says, man, I don't know where to start with this one. A semi-bizarre soundtrack to a super bizarre movie. But it's quintessential Max. I think you'll like this. We'll play two pieces from this. That is from Toshiro Mayuzumi, Max Roach, recorded, I believe, in 1962, and we heard music from scene C and scene F2. Clifford Jordan, Ronnie Matthews, Eddie Kahn, and Max Roach.
Wow. That was intense. Thank you for the Wikipedia. I guess that scene C must have been when the soldier kills his dog or something. Yeah, that was pretty intense there. But I guess the backstory to that is I was bequeathed Max Roach's drum set, which is a pretty long story, but a pretty interesting one. I'll try to make it really short. Of course, Max Roach went to Japan at some point in the 60s. Let's go with 62. I like that. That works for me. And in 1964, I guess in 1962 or somewhere subsequently after that, he went to Japan, brought some drums and some cymbals to Japan. And in 1964, there was a Japanese guy who I guess went to some kind of fundraiser. I'm not sure what it was, but there was an auction for these drums, and he won the auction. And then a couple years later, he had a little girl, and that little girl grew up, and I met her, and she became my wife. So I'm married to a woman from Tokyo, Japan, and he had that drum set before he had his daughter. And that drum set was always around the house. And when he passed away in 2008, he bequeathed those drums to me. So when I go there, I see the drums and I'm like, oh, wow. But the cymbals, I pick it up and I hear it and I go, no way. And it really sounds like some of the recordings that Max has recorded. So when I met Bill, was that yesterday, Bill, or was it the day before Monday?
Monday.
Monday. One of the questions that I had for Bill is, do you know of Max going to Japan? Because I wanted to get some documentation, a recording, a live record, a video that shows Max in Japan in before 1964. And of course, Bill was able to use his wealth of knowledge and that great brain that he has to find this movie and the soundtrack that Max helped record. Is that short enough, Bill? That's
Short enough. You could talk as long as you want. And we could listen to that cymbal now.
Yeah. I think that's a good segue to listen to that cymbal.
Without more words, let's listen to the cymbal.
10-8-7-8, take 4.
I say I'll move the mountain, and I'll move the mountains if he wants them out of the way. Crazy, he calls me. Sure, I'm crazy, crazy in love, I say. I say I'll go through fire, and I'll go through fire. As he wants it, so it shall be. Crazy, he calls me. Sure, I'm crazy, crazy in love, you see. Like the wind that shakes the bough, he moves me with a smile. The difficult I'll do right now. The impossible will take a little while. I say I'll care forever, and I mean forever. If I have to hold up the sky, crazy, he calls me. Sure, I'm crazy, crazy in love, am I. Like the wind that shakes the bough, he moves me with a smile. The difficult I'll do right now. The impossible will take a little while. I say I'll care forever, and I mean forever. If I have to hold up the sky, crazy, he calls me. And sure, I'm crazy, crazy in love, am I. I know a good one.
Wow.
No greater love. No greater love.
You want to do that?
I'll do that. That's real bad.
Here we go.
I mean, come on, Junior man. You ain't gonna bother me no more. No how. Love goes just so far. No more. Woke up this morning and found I didn't care for you no more. No how. Never felt so good before. You're down to my size. It's over and done. So your highness step down from your throne. That look in your eyes don't bother me none. Can take you or leave you alone. From my window, skies ain't gray no more. Not now. Here's the day that I've been waiting for. Got only one heart with no spares. Must save it for loving somebody who cares. So you ain't gonna bother me no more. No
Dinah Washington. 2 selections, Crazy He Calls Me, and they introduced There's No Greater Love, but she did a piece called No Mo. And all from that massive Emerson treasure trove of Clifford Brown and Max Roach. And a lot of Dinah. I think they recorded about 14, 15 tracks during that month. And before that, we heard 2 pieces from Clifford and Max, Mildama, Max's piece, and before that, Billy Strayhorn's Take the A Train, where Max is playing our guest, Thomas Taylor's cymbal.
Now that's funny.
It's great. Love it.
Any comments, questions?
I love that. The dine is so great. It's so casual. It has such a like relaxed feel. It's beautiful. That's great. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah. All right, Eddie, you've got a few tracks coming up for us.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the nuke guy tonight. I'm the nuke max guy. That's my assignment for the evening, and it's been so tough to do. No, it's been fabulous. It's really just going through this stuff is just great.
It's hard when you have to listen to Max Roach for
Yeah, and Sonny
Wow.
Rollins, truly two of the great brains in the history of the music. Truly, those, just thinkers and players. Amazing. Anyway, I think we're going to listen to three tracks, and we're going to start with from Saxophone Colossus. We're going to start with Strode Road, and then we're going to listen to Love Letters from the +4 sessions. That's with Kenny Dorham and Ray Bryant and George Morrow and Max, and then we'll listen to Bempshire Swing with Monk. So we'll play those three.
That timpani and drum playing.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's a magic session there.
Now you all understand why I asked, does anyone know the backstory or if there's pictures or videos? Because it's like, I mean, even hearing it now, it's like, how's he doing that? Because, I mean, just, you got to be like this and timpani aren't usually the same height as a drum set, even for the drummers back then who didn't necessarily have adjustable seats. But he would have to sit up pretty high behind the drums to be able to play the timpani. And there's no overdubbing on that Bemcher swing. So he's a magician.
I wonder who would be able to actually speak to that. I don't know.
I read that the producer did an awful lot of editing on that recording.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Yes, that was mostly on Brilliant
Keep
Corners.
Yeah.
Gordon.
And that was, Orrin Keep News. And that was mostly on Brilliant Corners but I do hear a edit in there. I want to say maybe it goes like from the trumpet solo or it goes into the trumpet solo.
Mm-hmm.
There's an edit, but I think there's only one, and I think there's more than one on Brilliant Corners.
Uh-huh. I mean, it seems like Aidan Levy is the guy on all things Sonny Rollins these days, and I think maybe he would have something to say about it. And I don't know, maybe Kenny Washington, might be a person to check in with on that. He's very knowledgeable.
Yeah, I talked to Kenny about many things. I didn't think to talk to him about that. I talked to him when I was in New York, I guess last year or 6 months ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about Betty Carter and the cymbals that he used on Betty Carter's records when he was playing with Betty. So that turned into an 1.5 hour long conversation, and we got a smoke. It was great though.
Maybe it's me, but when I listen to that Bemcher swing, there are parts in there where I feel like I don't like the band's really like learning the tune as they're playing it. It sounds like they're really like there are times when it just doesn't quite click, or I don't know, maybe Monk's rhythm is so irregular anyway, and it just seems like they're trying to like, where's he going? That's just how I feel it.
I think on that particular record date specifically, Monk gave all of that music to them for the first time. So they were, I think they struggled with that particular record because it was all new music.
Mhm.
But the thing that stands out to me is how Max, from that one and maybe the first song that you played, especially during his solos, you can tell he's really singing the melody. And the same thing on Strode Road.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
Max knows the melody just as well as Sonny does. And you hear him quoting the melody throughout his solo. And that was one of those big revelations to me. Like, oh wow, I'm not thinking about the song when I'm playing drums. I'm just playing drums, which means I'm sucking. And that's one of the things I try to I really force my drum students to do is they have to sing the melody, as well as I make them associate the title with the melody. You have to be able to sing it, because so many of us drummers don't do that. So, if somebody says, "Hey man, Strode Road," drummers don't go da 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 da. That doesn't start playing in their heads, right? So it's one of the things that I am a stickler on, of making sure that the drummer knows that, because the better you know the melody, the better you can support and play the song. So if you don't know the melody, you're probably not playing the song as well as you could. So Max is the person that taught me that also. It was real, and it's evident when you hear him playing on these things tonight. It's like, oh yeah, yep, that's why I'm doing this. Yeah, he doesn't get lost. And even on, like, in Brilliant Corners, if you listen to that one, that song is challenging because it's a 27 bar song, and it's the song slow, and then it's the song twice as fast. And some of the horn players and people get it mixed up, but Max and Monk did not. They were the two who kept the form during their solos. So it's one of the great things that Max was really genius for, is knowing that melody and keeping that melody internalized even during his own solo.
You know what always fascinated me? Monk always, very often played the same kind of his tunes, but he never, as far as I know, ever re-recorded Brilliant Corners. I only think there's one version of that. I may be wrong, but I don't remember ever
I
hearing
think you're
it.
right. I think you're
I
right.
think if there's one on one of the Columbia records, but I don't know. Last week's guest, the drummer Preston Osgood, recorded Brilliant Corners.
Right. Right.
Well, I wonder if Monk got frustrated and he was just like, okay, these people can't play my tunes, and it's like, well, they're not mind readers, and I don't know how clear the charts were. I was fortunate to go to the Library of Congress and look through some of Max's papers and everything, and see some of the music that he wrote. And a lot of that stuff is really, again, crystal clear. It's really great and beautiful to see, and to lay hands on that and be in the room with it. But I wonder if the frustration of, I would love to hear the unedited
Right.
version of of any one of those tunes. Like, okay, how many cuts had to happen, and how much tape was left on the floor.
Yeah, no Pro Tools back then.
All right. Any questions, comments before we go to M Boom? Let's listen to some music. M Boom. 2 selections from that. Any comments? Question?
Yeah, that was a great ensemble because, you know, it's one of the few, I guess, classical percussion ensembles that has an equal amount of improvisation. And, you know, all of the percussionists rotated all the instruments. I guess on the first one, Max was playing xylophone. And I wonder, was Max playing timpani on the last one? I don't know if they have the listing of who's doing what on which songs. Do you know, Bill?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I remember discussing it. Fred King, I think it's one of the timpani players, and he and I discussed it right after it came out, but that's, 40 plus years ago.
I'll go grab the album. I'll go grab it.
Oh,
Take 2
really?
seconds. Yeah, I'll go grab it.
Wow. Cool. See, man, that I know where I'm going to be spending time and who I'm going to be tapping for important information that I can't find. Forget Google and the internet.
That's true. Actually, Warren Smith has a great memory.
Does he?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
he does.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to get in touch with Warren if possible. I'm actually in the process of finishing a proposal, an application to play at the 2025 Percussion Arts Society International Conference in Indianapolis in November, and I want to do a musical tribute to M. Boom because this year will be the 55th year of M. Boom's creation. It started in 1970, and I've talked to Joe Chambers a lot. I've worked with him a lot as well. He lives in North Carolina now, and he has agreed to participate in this ensemble. And I did. Did you know that Stefan Harris played in the ensemble before Max Roach died in M. Boom? Because I didn't know that. I knew Bobby Sanabria did, but I didn't know Stefan did. So I've been talking to a few people for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, about wanting to do this M. Boom tribute. And so we're trying to make that happen. That's the reason I was asking about Warren, if anybody has Warren's contact, because I want to at least reach out and ask him, would he be interested in playing as part of that tribute group? And then we could have Joe Chambers and Warren Smith, the original surviving members, as well as hopefully Bobby Sanabria and Stefan Harris, along with a couple of university faculty members. So that's the thing that I'm trying to do, get that M. Boom. I'm trying to extend Max's celebration for more than just 100 years.
So Thomas, are there charts? Are there
Oh,
M Boom?
There's definitely charts. When I was at the Library of Congress, I saw some charts. And, you know, I was looking specifically for trio stuff, quintet stuff, and choral stuff, you know, because Max has a couple of albums that I found while I was in Japan. One of them's called It's Time. And there's actually an M. Boom version of that also, but he does a whole choir, like a 50-piece choir singing with some of his compositions with like quintet. So I was looking specifically for that, and I saw that there was some M. Boom scores and pieces too. And of course, Joe has a bunch of pieces as well. And I'm sure Warren has some stuff. You know, everybody was collaborating and they were bringing music to the ensemble. So I think all of them have some. And I guess I need to talk to Nasheep Waits to see if Freddie, because his father, Freddie, was playing with the group as well. And I don't know who wrote what. Okay, so Eddie, tell us who did what and who
Okay.
wrote.
Okay, Bill, which were the tracks we heard?
Onomatopoeia.
Okay. On
And
onomatopoeia, Max plays vibes and xylophone.
okay.
And Warren Smith plays timpani.
Uh-huh.
And and what was the second one?
Rumble in the Jungle.
Rumble in the Jungle. Okay. Rumble in the Jungle. Max, multiple percussion. His name for the trap set. That's what he referred to the trap set as.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
So who played timpani?
Roy Brooks.
Okay. And who wrote those two tunes? Who wrote Rumble in the Jungle?
Okay. This is one of those album covers that's jam-packed with information. To sort out who did what is
Yeah, that's part of the reason
may
I
take-
like CDs, because they were able to spread the information.
well.
for
What's
several pages.
What's hysterical about this, or interesting about, is this record came out it was 1980, and this was a digital recording, and there's massive explanations here of what a digital recording is, introducing the extended range digital series, and there's a whole thing over here about digital recordings, and now it's 44 years later, and digital recordings are not necessarily seen with the greatest of honor these days. I think a lot of people who are into this kind of thing would prefer the analog. So,
And that's not a laser disc either, right?
no, it's a straight up straight up vinyl.
But it was a digital recording.
But it was done. It was recorded. It was recorded digitally. Now, to get the composer credits, let me see. Okay, here we go. Omar Clay wrote "Rumble in the Jungle," and Onomatopoeia. Omar Clay wrote both of those tunes.
Tracks.
They're both Omar Clay tunes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the music is there. And I did talk to Joe about getting his music published. So of course I'm going to toss that out there too. If you all know any music publishers that want to publish some percussion music, yeah, get in touch with me so I can help people get their stuff. I'm just a facilitator. I'm an instigator like Max. That's what we drummers do, is instigate.
Did Stefan Harris play more than just vibes on when he was playing with that band?
I don't know. I haven't seen any. I haven't taken the time to try to find any videos or anything. I don't think he recorded with them. He just, I was talking to him. He's a good friend, and he was like, I played in Boom. I'm like, what? Wait, when did this happen? So I'm not sure. But Stefan's a great marimba player and
He's
vibraphone.
amazing. I
Period.
saw him in a duet with Kenny Barron, just piano and vibes, and it was amazing.
And he actually has a new app coming out. So if anybody is interested in understanding harmony more and listening to chords and understanding that, he's got a great app coming out, or an update to it, called Harmony Cloud. That's really amazing. He sent me the beta of the new version, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, this thing is incredible. So it's really great. Yeah, so I'm sure Stefan also plays drum set and plays all the other percussion instruments. That's kind of what we have to do when we are students, especially at the university. Whether we want to or not, we have to play the other instruments. And then we get to focus on what we really want somewhere down the line. But yeah.
I think you're muted, Bill.
Yes, you're right. Anyway, no need to repeat that. Tom,
Yes, I want to.
thank you so much for spending the evening with us. We'll do it again if you want.
Yes.
Grady Tate.
Oh, I'm definitely, yes. Please put me down for that. Pencil me in.
Any questions or requests as we go out? We'll talk once more around 10 o'clock. I'll mention Eddie's back with me in 2 weeks. We'll be listening to the second part of our Joe Henderson celebration, and we'll be focusing on live recordings. So don't miss it.
Yeah, that's good. That's going to be deep.
Yeah. And then in February, I'm taking vacation in February, so I'm only going to be on once in February. I think it's February the 5th. And the great James Carter's my guest. James, as most of you know, is one of the most accomplished saxophonist band leaders around. And but we're going to be spending the evening listening to and talking about Django Reinhardt.
Whoa. You know, this is off point. You know who's a huge Django Reinhardt fan? I've been listening to a lot of Willie Nelson recently.
He did us.
Willie Nelson was a huge, huge Django Reinhardt fan and tried to incorporated some of Django's technique.
Yes, he
into
did a
his
song
own.
with Waylon Jennings about Django.
Yeah. He
Huge.
acknowledges that. Yeah.
Yeah.
that-
Yes.
He tried to
Open.
sound like.
As I was, talking to James and getting ready for this Django, I learned too that Dickie Betts was a huge Django fan, and his song Jessica was written for Django.
Well, they
If
must
you
have played
listen-
together. Europe? Did they play together in
Yeah.
Europe? Aren't there all these sessions with, American expats and traveling American players in Europe? Playing with the best European players of the 30s. I think Dickie Wells is on.
No,
some
Dickie
of that.
Wells. Not he said Dickie
Ah.
Betts.
Dickie
Oh my
Betts.
God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
But yeah,
God.
yeah. No, but you're right. Yes, you are right. But
Oh, Dickie Betts! Holy cow!
Yeah.
Allman
I'm-
Brothers. I got to get my head back in the game here. Allman Brothers. Okay.
yeah, Richard Thompson's
Wow.
also a huge Django fan.
Can
Well-
I say really quickly a thank you to 3 of my 5 sisters who have joined the podcast tonight as well. Thank you all very much for being here. Yes, I'm an only boy out of 6 kids. I have 5
5
sisters.
sisters. God bless you.
Ah,
So yeah, 3 of the 5 are here hanging out with us tonight.
oh,
So
that's great.
thank
Thank you for bringing them.
Oh,
I know
yeah,
about sisters. My mother-in-law had 5 sisters, and my wife has 5 sisters.
wow.
And I have
craziest thing.
And I have 5 sisters too.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Really, Edward? Wow.
yes, yeah. My parents kept at it until they had a boy, apparently. Well, it's great for you that you got family members joining you tonight, and you can even reach out to them to ask for refresh your recollection about when you learned that Max was a cousin of yours.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
It was just like I was kind of mad at my aunt for telling me that, but then I was kind of mad at myself because it's like, all you had to do is ask questions when you were younger, and I'm sure somebody would have given me that information, but again, young and dumb and hard-headed, that's kind of what that is.
What you said, Thomas, about seeking older people in the room and getting them to talk. I mean, that's how many of us on this podcast are learned a lot from listening to Phil Shapp and hanging out with Phil Shapp over the years. And Phil famously would buttonhole musicians in his neighborhood of Hollis, Queens, like go over there after school, knock on their door, and talk to them and ask them about, well, what was it like, touring with the Basie band? What was it like on that date? What do you remember about that song? And that's, and he soaked up so much from talking to from having the gumption to talk to older people about their experiences and their perceptions and their memories. And, you know, God bless those musicians for having the patience to, you know, talk to this young guy, young kid,
Yeah.
and share what they had with him, and he in turn was able to share with us.
That's one of the challenges with, you know, the college students that I see today and some of the high school kids, you know, the majority of them don't want to talk to the older musicians. They definitely don't want to play with the older musicians, and they don't want to be told, you know, you think you're hot stuff right now, but you're not, and this is why. You know, that's a challenge. And I'm sure at some point when I was younger, I didn't want to hear all of that either. But I do remember somebody telling me, you know, you're not so good. And I'm going, okay, so what do I need to do? And he said, listen, boy, you
My
know,
granddaughter, her boyfriend is a bass player. And so I asked him if he likes the acoustic bass. He said, I never played the acoustic bass. I play electric bass. So I let him listen to Richard Davis. And I think he blew his mind. He had never heard anything like that before in his life. So he's looking for a real stand-up, a real bass.
A convert. You made a convert, Arthur.
Maybe.
Yeah, you know, since we're acknowledging and thanking, you know, it seems appropriate. You know, I don't know. Maybe you guys know this, maybe you don't. But you know, Bill, our host and honcho of this thing, you know, developed quite the significant relationship with Max Roach when Bill was a young guy, and
A teenager, no
a
less.
teenager. Yeah, you know, so you know, Bill's always had it in him to kind of go for whatever kind of he wanted to go for. And, you know, he developed this relationship with Max and that really resulted in, you know, significant stuff. And I think in some way kind of moved the music along. I mean, Bill produced the concert that Max did with Cecil Taylor, which was a huge, you know, kind of milestone for both of them. And, you know, Bill was the guy on that, you know, so I just want to thank and acknowledge him for, like, you know, what he did when he was a kid, but also what he's continued to do now in terms of kind of keeping not just Max, but, you know, all of these great artists, you know, with us, even though they may be gone, the music lives on and, you know, Bill's doing a lot to help that happen. So, you know,
Thank you.
that's the last good thing I'm going to say about you. So, you know, take it and be glad.
Yeah, no, it's extraordinary. We were kids, and it was a revolving door of Art Blakey and Max Roach and Jackie Byard, and it was just incredible. Sonny Rollins, Scarvalone, you interviewed Sonny, I believe.
Only by phone,
Only by-
unfortunately. Only by phone. He had settled.
Yeah.
He'd relocated to the Catskills by then. But it's just any opportunity you have to meet somebody with that kind of knowledge and life experience and, you know, perseverance and creativity and knowledge. It was just it was that was a lesson. That was my fundamental college experience, was talking to people who'd really you know, worked really long and hard at their craft and persevered through so much and were creating music on a high level.
You know, KCR people, we've heard hundreds of interviews that Phil Schaap conducted, and I cannot remember the drummer's name. I think he was with Erskine Hawkins' band. Phil interviewed Max in the early 90s, and they had, let me see if I can dig up his name. But anyway, the drummer from that band, who was in Harlem playing millions of gigs in the 30s and 40s, that's a 2-hour interview. And Max is interviewing this drummer that he saw as a teenager himself. And that's the longest period of time in Phil's life that he kept his mouth zipped. But I'll dig up that interview and send it to the group.
Phil Shapp of blessed memory.
Yes. We've got a few.
All his stuff now is all his recordings are on what's the school? Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So Vanderbilt is hosting the repository of his shows.
Library of Congress for Max, or the library in Harlem has all of Sonny's archives. And hats off to
the
Jim
shop.
Young and Matt Rivera, and names and age. 3 people are archiving all that material
Yeah.
of Bill at his parents' house, which Eddie, did you ever go to his house? I never did.
No, I know. I grew up. Less than a mile from Phil, and we used to play basketball together in the same schoolyard in Queens. But I never went to his house. No.
Mhm.
But the stuff that turns up, like Ben Young just sent Bill and I, so he found in Phil's a recording of Bill and I doing a show with Ed Blackwell. It's like neither of us even remembered this, I mean, well, maybe we have vague recollections. Then there was a short clip of it. He sent it to us. It's like, Phil had this stuff.
Oh, the musician's name I forgot is Haywood Henry.
Haywood Henry.
Haywood Henry was a
Baritone player.
multi-instrumentalist.
He was a saxophonist, not a drummer.
You're right. Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
And I think Ben is going to play it on one of his hot clubs on one of the Thursdays. And Max basically interviews Haywood.
Cool.
Yeah. Great interview.
I'd like to learn more about Phil's dad and his sojourn in Paris. That whole area time just before World War II. That fascinates me.
Well, did you hear Ben did a hot club with, I don't know if it was Lewis Porter or one of the historians that's on the regular Thursday programs. And there's about 6 or 9 hours that one of the guys in our age group interviewed Walter Shapp.
Is that right? I haven't heard that.
So Walter was in the U.S. Army before the beginning of the war. And so one of his hangs was Django's Hot Club.
Yeah, well, he was involved with the Hot Club of France.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's about 4 to 6 hours of interviews with Walter.
I'd love to hear some of that.
Yeah.
Real quick, Thomas, what's it like? You've been to the Library of Congress to look at Max's papers. A lot of sheet music, a lot of charts.
Yeah, it's really only the stuff that Max wrote.
Okay.
So but there's still a lot of things, and I was on a time crunch, because I had like a small window of time. I did the same thing with Duke Ellington when I was in college and did a thing on black, brown, and beige. But so I kind of hurried through a lot of stuff, and I had reached out to one of the librarians there, so she had given me like a spreadsheet of all of the hundreds of boxes of items. So I had already navigated that down to or curated down to 5 boxes that I wanted to go through to look for the specific stuff. So I went in the serious game plan of how I wanted to spend my 2 days, 6 hours a day of trying to look through this stuff and find things. So but there was still a lot of stuff though. There was a lot of stuff there. They've got a lot of things and a lot of interesting papers and correspondence, as well as photos that I had never seen before. So it was a great couple of days spent there, and I highly recommend it if you've got anybody that you're interested in and their body of work is at the Library of Congress. Spend some time out there.
Yeah, sad to say, I had an appointment there for January 21st because my wife and I were going to go down there for President Harris's inauguration. But Sad to say. I'm
Not
not
to
going to
be.
Washington anytime soon.
Yeah, but at least we're going to get Greenland as a new.
51st state.
Right.
No, the 51st state will be Canada.
Oh,
So
I mean, come on, give me a break.
I have a lot of friends who went to President Obama's inauguration. I could not go. So it was really, I've never been to an inauguration, but not this year.
No.
someday.
Someday.
Has anybody been to the Schomburg Center to look at Sonny Rollins's materials? You know,
Not
I
Sonny
have.
Rollins, but I've
That
been
I-
there for
That I did.
years.
yeah, I've done
When
that.
it
I've
when
done.
it first opened. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
Aidan Levy, spent
Right.
years there
Yeah.
doing his research. And they kept, you were saying that Max mostly kept his writing, but Lucille's writing, I mean, she kept everything from early 70s till her death. Napkin.
Aren't you going to have Lauren Schomburg on?
I was supposed to on February 19th, but I'm going out of town. So I have to postpone that a few weeks or a few months.
But he was the curator for that museum up in Harlem, right?
At the National Jazz
No,
Museum.
well, he's the curator at the Jazz Museum of Harlem. The Sonny Rollins collection is at the Schoenberg.
I got it.
It's a separate.
Yeah,
Separate.
Same neighborhood,
separate
10
thing.
blocks from each
Same.
other.
Yeah, same neighborhood.
But the Schoenberg Center is extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's really.
Has anybody been to the Louis Armstrong, the new Louis Armstrong, across the street from the house?
I want to. Yeah.
Not yet.
No.
They're only open Thursdays and Fridays. So when I go to New York, I go on, like now, I'm going to go up there for Monday and Tuesday for music, but it's not open. But Ricky Riccardi's book on the early Louis Armstrong years is coming out.
Yeah, Arthur, I was here for the opening day a year ago, this past summer. And it's amazing to me when I reflect back that Dizzy Gillespie, right down the block. It's right down the block. And man, I gotta say, Louis Armstrong, I love you. And I know you love Dizzy Gillespie. That's why you made sure that himself and the missus, Lucille, were right down the block from you and Lorraine.
They're
But
all
how
sleeping
can we-
together.
Yeah, how can we continue to ignore the fact? Isn't Corona big enough for Louis and Disney? I mean, come on. Talk about jazz turf wars. Wow. Overlooking the mic, but you know what? I always love to remind people where it really matters. They swing together because Louis made sure that Dizzy and himself would be together in the Flushing Cemetery. And they celebrated the transition of Dizzy this past Monday night, January 3rd, 1993. So here, all of us above the ground, we can pretend that Dizzy is not down the block from where Louis lives, but I know they're together where it matters. Amen.
Wouldn't it be great if Little Jazz was in between them? So you could have that whole, you know.
He was in another part of Queens.
Has anyone seen the Louis Armstrong Broadway show?
No.
Yeah.
I have.
What did you think, Edward?
I was really disappointed. And I don't recommend it, frankly. I went there with some high hopes, and the music is secondary to a lot of other stuff, and it kind of explores Lewis's life through his relationships with 4 women, which is not nothing, but it's not, it kind of gets sidetracked by some soap opera elements, I'd say. And it doesn't even on those elements, it's not quite clear. The relationship between each of the 4 women is not terribly well developed either. There's a lot of performing, there's a lot of dancing, a lot of razzmatazz. But if you're going there looking to really have a Louis Armstrong experience, you might be disappointed.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
think
you
about
know,
the
Edward,
Fats Waller movie, the play Ain't Misbehavin' was phenomenal. It's
Exactly.
all music.
I was expecting to have that kind of experience,
Right.
Bill, because I love Ain't Misbehavin'. Loved it. Of
One
course,
of
it had Hank Jones playing piano
Exactly.
live,
Well,
which,
yeah,
doesn't hurt.
Eddie Burt. I interviewed him in the early 80s, and he said, whenever you want to see Hank Jones, call me. And there was a little seat that no one bought on the far left-hand side of the stage. You couldn't see the dancers, but you could see Hank. So I saw that like 4 or 5 times because it was, for the matinees.
you know what's interesting, everyone? Vanessa Williams,
She's good.
one of the most notable Miss Americas, even for a hot minute. She is one of the executive producers of What Ed Saw. And she and I crossed paths in a beauty salon about 18 months ago. And I recognized her. She had her back to me. I had my back to her. She spoke 2 words, and I knew immediately who she was. So she fell in love with me immediately. And she told me right away all about her aspirations with respect to What Ed Saw. And Ed, I've read the reviews, and I regret to say, Ed, your opinion is not in the minority. However, with that said, Ed, the fact is, she too went knocking on the door of the Louis Armstrong house, not with her hand out, but with her heart out, asking them to please embrace and support, at least spiritually, intellectually, the merit and the moment. And I got to think in some part that it was a missed opportunity for the Louis Armstrong House and Museum not to give it the consideration I believe it deserved. It might have, ironically, Ed, redounded to the benefit of all the players, not to mention the legacy of Louis Armstrong. But the show goes on, nonetheless, metaphysically speaking.
Right. Have you had a chance to see it, Francie? And if
Well,
so, what?
because I just told you, I regretted to tell you that the reviews are in, and yours is not the minority opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes, Ed, you can believe what you read even before one meets you to confirm it. And so I got the Irish luck. I did not go to see it, Ed. No.
Yeah.
What
But
But it
don't
was
worry.
it was great to see a room full of people enjoying themselves. But I felt a little alienated from that experience because I'm thinking, man, it's not what it could be. And part of it is thinking, who am I? I'm just like one dude. And people who want a show and razzmatazz and dazzle, they're gonna be happy with what they see. And they're gonna tap their foot. And I was tapping, I mean, I'm swept away by the music. Yeah, that song doesn't quite belong in the 1930s. It's like something that, from the 50s, but whatever. I enjoyed the music. It just didn't really kind of cohere into
What
a.
about the lead actor? Did he do a good job of imitating? Or did he try?
He tried. I mean, I think physically there's he's a tall man and doesn't really look like Lewis. He had a lot of he had some mannerisms that seemed a little self-conscious, the handkerchief. Um, there was never a moment where I thought I'm seeing Louis Armstrong. That's for sure. But he's capable. He's a a capable musical performer. And I think he originated the role out of town. I forgot where it got developed. St.
Oh
Louis,
yeah,
maybe?
they went down south. They did extensive rewrites and a lot of touring with this because you see, Ed, it was originally going to come to Studio 54 in 2023. See, that's the inside the Beltway, what I learned in the beauty parlor. But then, shampoo, it washes a lot of the detritus away. But I see Thomas. Thomas is laughing there. So Thomas T. Let's hope Miss Williams is not, shall we say, disinvested from her innate love of jazz. Indeed, after I recognized her after 2 words, she said to me, "Do you like jazz?" Oh, I said, "Yes, Miss Williams, I surely do." She said, "Well, I've got a new album coming out." So maybe, Thomas, if she still has some shekels from that investment she's made, maybe you could be in touch with her with M-Boom. You see what I'm saying?
I like that idea. I heard from someone that, you should go into the Louis Armstrong show expecting to see a Broadway show. And if you have those expectations, you'll enjoy it. But if you're expecting to, see a jazz musician and hear some jazz tunes, and that's going to be a little different. So, I think it was created to be a Broadway show, and that's what
Right.
I think, Thomas, we talked about it earlier tonight. If you want to see 1920s and 30s jazz in New York, every Tuesday night at Birdland, Vince Giordano.
Right.
I mean, it's the best, best band in town.
With the original arrangements.
Exactly. I was telling you, he has a wall bigger than my bookshelf that he schleps to every damn concert so they could pull out the binders and play note for note what. Yeah, we were chatting about Cole Porter, and there's a record of Cole Porter's a combination CD. I'll look for it for you. And there are about 28 different bands from the 20s and 30s, and most of them I've never heard of, but they're all superb.
And that's, Bill, that's for everybody who missed Boardwalk Empire.
Yep.
Yeah.
I missed it, so.
There you go. But Thomas, don't let Miss Williams down.
I'm there for her.
It's
I'm
time
ready.
for her to redeem herself.
Make the connections. I'm all about the
Cool. And you've still got enough hair.
I'm hiding it really well. You don't see the top. So
Okay, cool.
keep looking at the chin.
Well, thank you, everybody, for hanging with us tonight, sharing the conversation. And again, we can all listen to Max's drumming differently now because of Professor Taylor.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thanks all. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you all.
My pleasure. Bye.
We'll go out with a couple of pieces, but all music now.
I'm in love with a strong man, and he tells me he's wild about me. I'm in love with a guy who is everything grand any man can be. I'm in love with a strong man. What a hard-working hero is he. Great big arms, muscled hard shining he folds around me. Hair crisp and curly and cropped kind of close. Picture a lover like this. Lips warm and full that I love the most. Smiling between every kiss. I'm in love with a strong man. Once you see him, you'll have to agree that any other would just be the wrong man. And it is easy to see why I love life when I'm loving my strong man and letting my strong man love me. And letting my strong man love me. Hair crisp and curly and cropped kind of close. Picture a lover like this. Lips warm and full that I love the most. Smiling between every kiss. I'm in love with a strong man. Once you see him, you'll have to agree that any other would just be the wrong man. And it is easy to see why I love life when I'm loving my strong man and letting my strong man love me. And letting my strong man love me.
So long I've been needing your love. Hear me pleading, love. My heart is bleeding.
Take me back where I belong.
I know folks are saying from you I've been staying, but still I keep praying.
Take me back where I belong.
Answer me. Why can't
Take me back where I belong.
So long, I've been needing your love. Hear me pleading, love. My heart is bleeding.
Take me back where I belong.
I know folks are saying from I've been staying, but still I keep praying.
Take me back where I belong.
Oh, love me. Why can't you see? Let my love be. Take me back where I belong. Don't be hesitating too long. I've been waiting long. I'm agitated.
Take me back where I belong.
Take me back. Take me back. Take me back. Where you know I really belong.
Chanel Johns, Damien Sneed, and Chorale Le Chateau.